Hey everybody, I'm JJ. You're watching Reality Survival, and today we're going to talk about some reasons why I think that you should not join a prepper group. So my thoughts on this topic have evolved over the years, and based on the current environment that we find ourselves in, I think that it is a bad idea to join a prepper group. I've got some notes here. I want to talk about this and just kind of the main points on all this stuff, why I think this, why I've come to these conclusions, and what may be a better alternative. So, number one, in today's day and age, the political climate we find ourselves in, a prepper group is a huge liability. I think there's a much higher degree of likelihood that being a member of a prepper group will bring you negative attention from law enforcement officers than it will potentially provide you any benefit for being a member of said group. Especially in those groups where there is a paramilitary rank structure used, or a group that is solely focused on firearms training, or a group that has any social media presence or a website. Unfortunately, the problem is that it's kind of led to this whole issue is that there is a bad misperception out there that being a prepper, which is not true. A lot of people think that it's someone who is advocating for the collapse of the government, or that you want to see a collapse of civilization or something like that. And or that you're trying to accelerate the fall of the government, or something along those lines. And that's not true at all. I mean, while there are fringe lunatics in any large group, that's not what being a prepper is really about. And most all the people who watch my channel regularly know this. But being a prepper is just trying to be a responsible citizen, somebody who's able to take care of his own family, and if and when tough times occur, you try to be prepared for the worst case scenarios so that your family can maintain as much normality as possible through that bad situation. All sane preppers hope that they never have to use their supplies because of any kind of a collapse of civilization or anything like that. They just realize that, we appear to be trending in a downward direction. And that there are, in fact, regional disasters that take place all over the country, all the time. So they just want to be ready for whatever happens. That's what, real life preppers are concerned with for the most part. So I would suggest to you that instead of going out and joining a pre-existing group, you should really, really consider and try to figure out how to create your own group. Okay? I cannot stress this enough. I think that it makes a whole lot more sense if you look to your circle of friends, your family members, your neighbors, and if they're not already into prepping, figure out ways to teach them about it. Talk to them about it. You don't even have to call it like a prepper group, or you don't have to say, hey, I'm forming a group. You can just kind of start educating them on it. Maybe take them to the range and teach them how to shoot if they've never shot before. Maybe you can show them, how to start a garden. Do some stuff that you do with your garden, Maybe teach them how to can garden, can foods and stuff, and talk about why you do it. Not because you think the world's going to end, but just because sometimes there's shortages in the grocery stores, like right now. Common sense kind of stuff. So it doesn't need to be some formal thing. You're just friends, and you're just talking to them about things that you're interested in, and hopefully you share some similarities in. If you can't do that, if you just don't have anybody around you that you can tolerate enough to do those things with, then I would suggest think about moving maybe. And B, maybe you can go to places in your area, you can join activities where you might organically meet other people who are interested in disaster preparedness. I did another video on this, talking about some of the different ways that you can meet other preppers and different kind of clubs that you can go to and stuff like that. But it could be like local gardening clubs or canning groups, or going to the gun range, maybe, joining a league of some sort, those kinds of things. Or shooting competitions, that kind of stuff. Ham radio clubs, 4-H is another great one. You can join those kind of places, and if you go in and get involved in those groups, those kinds of things, you're gonna meet preppers. I mean, they're just full of them. But here's the main thing I think that you need to really focus on if you decide that you're going to try to create your own group of like-minded people, is proximity is the key. People in your group need to physically live near you, 5 to 10 miles if possible, but if not, then as close as possible to that. Travel will be extremely difficult and dangerous if there ever was any kind of a big grid down situation where you needed to rely on each other. And so if you have to travel an hour or something, or across a major metro area or something like that, that's going to make it tough. It's going to make it really dangerous for people to be able to do that. And so just taking that into consideration, it would be better if it was people that were close to you, And then the other thing is if you meet people who are close to you, you're more likely to spend more time with them, getting to know them, and and figuring out if you can trust them and all those kinds of things, because that's also important. So I don't think that there is any need for a formal group structure, a mission statement, rules, rank, social media presence, a website, or any of that kind of stuff, that's trying to bring in a whole bunch of people. Because unfortunately, that's also bringing in a whole lot of other attention that you just don't really want. All these things are just a liability for people who are just trying to do the right thing. I think that it's just so easy to be misunderstood and all that kind of stuff that you really should just avoid all those things at all costs, if it were me. Just live your life, be low key, help other people with similar interests. There's no need to really formalize anything. Just be friends with people who have similar interests. That's the bottom line of creating a tribe, and creating a group of people who, are going to be willing to take care of each other and help each other in tough times and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be formalized. I think the old tie back to the days of, when everybody talked about militias and all that kind of stuff has kind of bled over into this topic and this group of this discussion, and it's really that's not a good model for disaster preparedness and all that kind of stuff, and I think it just works against us in a lot of ways. And the thing is if you have friends, you don't have to formalize all this stuff, because if you're a good group of friends, and anybody who's had a good group of friends out there, that you just naturally kind of gravitate towards what you do best, and then you do those things, and the other guys who do other things better are going to take care of those things, and the dynamics of the group will kind of sort itself out. You don't have to I'm in charge and you do this and all this this whole militaristic kind of thing. It's about coming together to help each other out in tough times. You don't need all this structure and all that kind of stuff. I don't think. I really think it's needless. If you're in a prepper group on social media, you're using those platforms for planning and training and recruiting new members and all that kind of stuff, you should really, really just consider abandoning all that. I had a group a long time ago on Facebook. It had like 40,000 members in it, and I closed it down because I think it's just too much of a liability, So I think that is something to think about. If you're already in a group, if you're already in a formal group, maybe a MAG or some kind of other, prepper group, and you have somebody come in and join your group who starts talking about violence, who starts talking about overthrowing the government, or who starts talking about taking any kind of an offensive action, not anything other than just defending yourself, you should really consider kicking that person out immediately and reporting them to law enforcement. I'm just saying, it's for the good of the group that you do that. Don't tolerate anybody who's trying to incite violence or even talking about inciting violence. That's a terrible idea. Also, you don't want to be associated with anybody who's a drug user, who owns any illegal firearms, unregistered explosives or explosive devices, any of those kind of things, because those kinds of people are people who are going to get your group in trouble. And it's just a fact of life. It's just the way it is. You just don't want to mess with that. The bottom line is, I think, is, make your own group of people. Don't go join some other group. It's pointless. It's unnecessary. You're creating huge amounts of risks. You don't know who those people are. You don't know if you can trust them. You don't have any idea what their intentions are and all that kind of stuff. Just look to your family, look to your friends, look to your neighbors, and people in your community who have similar interests. That's the best way to go. Create your own little group, your own little network of people. It doesn't even really have to be a group per se. It's just having a network of resources and people who you know and trust, and you've done business with, that you have hung out with, and that kind of stuff that you can call on if you need things. It doesn't need to be so formalized and structured. And I think going forward over the next however many years, being associated with these things is just going to cause more and more heartache, and it's really not something that is advisable, in my opinion. So anyway, guys, I hope you found this useful. I would love to know what your thoughts are. You can stick those down in the comments below. Let me know if you agree or disagree or whatever the case may be. And don't forget to live 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.